Hi there. Okay, so welcome back. We do actually, Yevgeny, have 8 viewers. Yay!
Wow. 8
Yeah,
viewers.
8 viewers. Yes. So excited. So yeah, we weren't sure if anybody would show up because our ads have only just started going live, and of course, it's been a really, really long time since we were here. So the 7 viewers now who have joined us, thank you so much for joining and welcome back. So if you would please do me a favor, just so that I know that all the tech is working and you can hear us, just drop us a little hello there in the comment section on the right. Say hi, tell us where you're from, and then that way I know that the whole thing is working and working properly. I'm really rusty. I can't remember any of my processes for managing this whole thing, but I'm sure I will remember once we get going. So, hey, Richie Rich, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so it looks
Hey,
like
Rich indeed.
everything is working if Richie's been able to message us. So why don't we? Oh, we've got Antonia from Fort Lauderdale. I always think Fort Lauderdale sounds like a really cool name, and that it must be this really, really cool place with like giant wooden balustrades around it. But hey, that's my
I
classic.
see it as some sort of fortification, but
Yeah, like
obviously,
large wooden kind of
yeah, exactly.
palisades. Yeah, that's my Roman history there for you. Right, who else have we got? Oh, we've got Ola from Birmingham. I won't do my Birmingham accent because that might offend you. Um, Sarika from Hyperbad and Prognostic. Hello, welcome. Right, let's just crack on. I don't know how long this will last. There's only like 13 odd people here. We usually would have had at our peak something up to 60. So who knows how long we'll keep this thing running, but we're here for you. Ask us any questions you want. So I will quickly introduce myself and then I'll pass over to Evgeny and then we will explain just how we're going to run things. So if you don't already know, I am Gigi. I am an ex-Amazon bar raiser and senior leader here at Day One Careers. I can see Yevgeny's wearing his merch. I'm not. It's really hot in my little office here. So yeah, ex-Amazonian, working with Yevgeny. We were both, I'll let you introduce yourself, Yevgeny, but we work together. We create tons and tons of free content for all of you aspiring Amazonians that we hope is super, super helpful. And we used to run these sessions every single week. Back in kind of November, I think we had to pull back because of the Amazon hiring freeze. But now they seem to be hiring a little bit more. So we have decided that we're going to come back and answer your questions for you. So Yevgeny, do you want to just introduce yourself very briefly?
Sure. So similar to Gigi, I am an ex-Amazonian and also a marketer and a category leader. And yeah, we both have been running Day One Careers and Gigi's previous business, Amazon Interview Wiz Academy, for quite a few years already. And yeah, and between Amazon and co-founding Day One Careers, I did a little stint at Apple, which was amazing as well. But this is all about helping you guys get into Amazon. So I suggest we get cracking, right?
Let's get cracking. Sure. Okay. So everybody, what we need you to do is, sorry, I have weird curtains as well. So you can see like this kind of perforation line. So you just cut
It's
down here to there.
very intriguing and suspenseful view.
Everybody, right. So if you have any questions, please just pop them there in the comment section on the right. We will be scrolling through them, although I will be because I didn't give Evgeny the right permissions today.
No,
I will be.
I think I can do. No,
You
I
can?
can't. Ah, no, you'll have to do it.
Yeah, I'll have
Yes.
to do it. Okay. See how rusty we are. Yeah, write your questions in that little comment section on the right-hand corner. I'll be looking through them, pulling them onto the screen, and then Yevgeny and I will attempt to answer them for you. Just quick kind of housekeeping. Do try and keep your questions to a single comment. It's really, really hard when people do them across multiple comments. If you must do them across multiple comments, then please just note one of X, one of 3, one of 4, whatever it is, and then it's just a little bit easier for us to keep track of. Obviously, please keep it clean and keep it polite. You will be blocked for offences. We don't get many people like that. Most people are joining us with the goodwill that we are providing in return, but please be respectful of us and of everybody else here on the session. Session will be recorded and it will be made available on our YouTube channel. Should you need to pop off and do something else, you can always watch it on replay. I think that's it. So why don't we get going? But I don't have any questions yet. So come on, folks.
No, but we do have a little shout from Zach M, which I'm gonna read it out.
Up,
Feel free to bring it up screen
yeah. Let me
with your
pull up.
magical powers. So just stop by to tell you thank you so much. I've landed the position at AWS. I mean, it's always great to see these things. Huge congratulations, Zach. Great place to work, AWS.
Zach, whilst everyone else is still obviously thinking very hard about questions they want to ask, what particular role did you land? Is it kind of customer support? Is it software development engineer? Just tell us kind of what role you landed there, and we can have a
Are
little
you
bit of a
part
chat
of
about it.
the sales teams that are chasing accounts, flying all around the world? Let us know. I think we've got a first question from
Got a
Jeff.
question. So while Zach is telling us what exactly he's doing, we can hear from Jeff. Right. So Jeff, hi, your name is Jeff. Cool. You're a regular AA. Okay. You've applied to an L3 position. You've been learning the morals and values. Is there anything that you think I should really focus on? Okay. And I assume from that, Jeff, you mean kind of focus in preparation for your L3 interview. If I've got that wrong, just tell me. But so do we
He's an
think,
Amazon associate, so he's gunning for an L4, I would imagine.
sorry, L4. Oh, he said applied to an L3
Oh, actually,
position.
no, he
Yeah,
has applied to an L3.
an
Yeah,
L3
no, you're
position.
right.
So, Yevgeny, any words of wisdom for Jeff that he should be focusing on, assuming he will be brought to interview for an L3?
To be honest, this is you should get yourself prepared in a very classic way. As you know, leadership principles is how Amazon lives and breathes, and you should be able to respond to leadership principles based behavioral interview questions, for which the content in our channel is just almost everything that you need. But that's pretty much it. I mean, these interviews are they tend to be pretty classic, and they tend to go exactly in line with everything that we've got on our channels. But other than that, I don't expect there's anything going to be there that you wouldn't be expecting if you've watched our YouTube videos closely. Anything that you would add, Gigi?
I suppose from a leadership principles point of view, there's probably two that stand out for me if you're applying for kind of an L3 in one of the fulfillment centers, which I assume you are if you're an associate, which is going to be deliver results. So how are you actually impacting and hitting numbers and hitting productivity and all of those types of things? And then the other piece for me is probably the customer obsession piece. Again, kind of the fulfillment centers are absolutely at the coalface when it comes to the customer experience, although it's behind kind of the curtain. So that I think is the other leadership principle that if I were you, I would be really, really making sure that you can blow your interviewers' minds with. All right, so Zach's telling us that he's got his role is as a quality assurance engineer, data center engineering. Ooh, data centers. So there's been an application for a data center to open near me. I was wondering whether it would be an Amazon data center actually, but that's by the by.
Being in a data center is one of the best places to be right now in London because it's nice
So
and
cool.
cool in there, and it's super hot in London.
Let's go find our nearest data center. Okay, here is a question from Gabrielle. Can I repeat the same example for my second phone interview? Okay, do you want to take that one, Yevgeny?
Sure. So I guess that depends on whether they're going to, on the likelihood that they're going to ask you exactly the same question during your second phone interview. So let's first talk about this example. So it's actually quite unlikely that they're going to ask you exactly the same question, because presumably, unless the first phone screen interviewer left a note saying, didn't manage to get a good read on this leadership principle, can you please probe again? And they get you exactly the same question, but it's very unlikely. So I guess now we have the second eventuality, which is when they ask you a different question. Let's say they're probing on a different LP, and you're thinking whether you can use the same example. I'm going to say that ideally use a different example, but if you believe that the same example puts you in the best light possible for that particular different question. What I would do is I would mention this to the interviewer and I'd say, look, I've already used this situation in my previous phone screen, but I still believe that it's highly relevant. And then use the same professional context, but sell a different set of behaviors. Because if it's a different question that's probing a different leadership principle, you can't just tell exactly the same story featuring exactly the same behaviors. So professional context could be the same, but behaviors have to be different. That being said, in an ideal scenario, and our guidance is to use a different story. Would you agree, Gigi?
Yes, in an ideal world, what you want to do is show as much breadth of high performance as possible. And the way to do that is to keep using fresh examples, because if you can constantly show fresh examples, it indicates that you are a consistent high performer. If you keep leaning on the same example, you risk them drawing the conclusion that you're simply a one-trick pony and you may have only ever done one or two great things in your career, which isn't what they're looking for. They're looking for consistent high performance. Okay, cool. Okay. All right, let's quickly pop on to Richie Rich here. So you did your phone interview last week. Our YouTube videos were very useful. I'm glad, but sadly you failed the coding part. Any tips to improve your DSA? Do you know how long you have to wait to apply again? Okay, so two different questions there. So let's just cover them separately. Do I know how long you have to wait to apply again? So if it is a first round interview that you did and you failed at that point, as far as I'm aware, you can keep applying. There's no moratorium associated with anybody who fails at the first round of interviews. That's kind of my best, most recent knowledge. In terms of coding, so we're not the experts in that space. We're focusing on the behavioral kind of leadership principle interview part of it, which is obviously what you'll see in our content. Okay, I'm trying to remember the name of this group, but if you check out the video on the YouTube channel with a gentleman called Vivek, it's all about the SDE part of the process. Go check out that video. And on that video, we talk about an organization that he works with. It was such a long time ago since I thought about this. I cannot remember the name, but there's links embedded to it in that particular video that can direct you to this particular organization, which is basically a group of software development engineers who all help each other out in terms of developing skills, interview preparation for the coding side of things, etc. So although I can't help you now, just go to that YouTube video and the link that you need will be there. And after this video, I have to go away and refresh my memory on the name of that organization. Okay, let's pop Richie Rich back in. Okay.
There's a question from Manjusha.
Manjusha, okay. All right. I was in the middle of my interview process with Amazon last year, and the position for which you were interviewed went on hold. You and tens of thousands of other people. Do you get any advantage if you apply at Amazon again? That's a really good question. Definitively, I don't have the inside policy on that, but I am going to speculate that probably. In terms of if you made it to a first round interview, when recruiters are sifting through resumes for subsequent roles, the first people that they're going to go to are the people who were already in process, because that's a clear indicator that that is a quality candidate, as opposed to a candidate for whom they have no previous data on whatsoever. So I suspect, yes, whether it's a policy issue, unknown. But if you just think about it rationally as a recruiter who's trying to fill their role, if it was me, I would certainly consider favorably anybody who was already mid-process. Would you agree, Evgeny?
Yeah, I would imagine that they would look at you as a sort of a warmer candidate who's already sort of been not pre-cleared, but I would interview, if I was a recruiter, I would push the candidates in Manjusha's situation through the process first.
Cool. Right. So I'm just gonna. This isn't a question, but I'm just going to say congratulations. So Usama, you said you've passed the first interview. Excellent. So good luck. As we were saying earlier, try and when you get to the next round, try and come up with some fresh examples. But awesome. In terms of just some old data, just FYI, and again, not current data. This is from kind of when I was at Amazon a couple of years ago. Broadly speaking, I would see somewhere between 3 and 1 in 10 candidates that I would then pass through from first round into next round. That next round might be a second phone interview, or it might be loop, depending on kind of the process we were following at the time. But that is a really good performance to have made it through the first round. So clap, 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 clap. Okay, quickly this one for back to Manjusha again. What department is hiring for program managers right now? Manjusha, we don't work at Amazon, and Amazon is absolutely enormous. It's global, so we can't answer that question for you. But the best thing you can do is pop onto the Amazon Jobs website and just type in program manager, and then any open roles for program managers will pop up. So I would suggest you head there to answer that question.
For sure. Now there's a question I think we can take quite easily, which is
Oh, not that one. Sorry. It
Yeah.
jumped. That one.
Yep. So this question is, what is the period between the first phone interview and the second interview? And the answer is it depends. Literally depends on how busy the team is that's interviewing you, and how many folks are not on holiday, and if it's Q4 when there is the Black Friday and Cyber Monday activations. Good luck slotting any of those interviewers in. So it really depends, and I guess if you're asking because you're concerned that there's just too much time that's it's taking Amazon to schedule your second phone interview, I wouldn't be concerned. And if you want, just drop a polite email to your recruiter, just asking if everything's okay and if there's anything else that they need from you. But otherwise, don't worry about it. It really depends.
Yeah. So just to be super clear here, Amazon has very kind of, well, actually it has firm processes and it has flexible processes at the same time. It's like, there's some variation within the overall construct. But one thing it doesn't do specifically is mandate the periods of time between each of the different steps.
No.
There is a mandate in terms of how quickly someone is supposed to get back to you after your interview. But other than that, there's no period of time mandated in the process. I see a lot of people kind of on the different social media channels comparing how long it took to get from interview 1 to interview 2 and asking each other, oh, does this mean that I'm a much better candidate because they've asked me to come back a week later, and someone else going, oh, my second interview isn't for 3 weeks. Does that mean they're not that interested in me? Like, do not even bother trying to compare with anybody else or hypothesize as to why you may be getting one period of time over another. To Yevgeny's point, it's just completely subject to the vagaries of life, who's available, when they're available, what other workload they have on, etc., etc. So don't worry about it. As Yevgeny said, just prompt your recruiter if you're feeling it's taking a while, politely, of course, but there's no meaning behind any of those timelines. Okay, so does anybody else have any other questions? Do you know what, Yevgeny? I should have thought about what topic we should chat about if we didn't have any questions. I'm obviously grossly underprepared for this particular session. So what else should we cover? What questions do people ask us all the time?
I mean, there are the classics.
Go on, let's cover the classics.
Let's go the classics. Okay. Why don't I ask you questions and you can ask me questions, and that way we can work together.
Okay,
So,
shoot.
Here's one classic question. How long should my example be for the behavioral interview?
Okay. So great question, Kenny. I'm glad you asked that one. All right. So obviously, I would say obviously, there's huge contention out there in the cybersphere as to what the right length of response time is. You hear anything from kind of 1 to 2 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. A lot of the answer depends on how senior you are. If you are a more junior candidate, let's talk L3s, L4s maybe, kind of your stories aren't going to be that complicated in the first place because you're not doing highly complex work in the way maybe a L8 or a VP, a director or a VP might be doing. So if you're at that end of the scale, you're probably quite comfortable to fit in a answer that's about maybe but somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes long, because you'll probably get plenty of detail in about your particular situation within those periods of time. When you're moving into the more senior levels, because they're looking for people who are able to bring scope and complexity in terms of their experience to Amazon, scope being projects that have quite a lot of breadth and touch on a lot of different things. Complexity are about, funnily enough, the complexity of that scope. In order to convince them that you have that scope and complexity in your career, examples of the past, you're going to have to spend quite a lot of time explaining it so that they get all of the different elements. So for those particular people, let's say L5s up to as high as you like, you're probably looking at needing to have an answer that lasts somewhere between 5 and even 10 minutes. People sometimes bulk at the idea of talking for 10 minutes. But if you are going into the level of behavioral detail that your interviewer is looking for, you're giving lots of good data points and you're detailing through that scope and complexity, you will be amazed at how quickly 5, 10, 8 minutes goes by. I will ask you another one in a second, but let's just see if
No, we've got some.
any more
We've got a
questions.
question from Bashir here.
Right. And we've got actually Sarika one from Sarika as well. So let's just quickly do Bashir first. Great pick, Bashir. And then we'll go back to Sariha. So what's the best place to start in your videos or playlists on excelling the behavioral interview? I can answer that one because
Please do.
Bashir, we have a playlist that's called Start Here. So I created that because plenty of people asked the same question that you did. So yeah, just head to the YouTube channel and go to that playlist called Start Here. And what I've done in that playlist is just brought together kind of either the videos that are really foundational, that just cover the things that you really, really need to know, and also the videos that help create some kind of a framework around your preparation process. So if you start there with those videos, you should be on the road to knowing the key things you need to know and giving you some structure as to how to move forward with your preparation. Okay, I'm just going to pop this one up. I'm on a career break and will be intending interview maybe this week. Help with a few tips. All right. Yevgeny, whilst I think about a good question to ask you, what would be your, let's just 3 top tips, just 3, if you're heading into an Amazon interview this week?
Okay. So Sarika also added some context before. So she
Oh,
said that she's applied for a CS manager role. So I'm assuming customer support.
uh-huh.
So Sarika, first of all, we don't have any specific tips for the customer support manager role purely because there's just way too many job codes at Amazon and job families. So I guess my tips for you would be related just as assuming that you're someone who hasn't interviewed for a while and you're getting into your Amazon interview maybe this week. So I would say practice as much as possible with anyone that you have. Practice with friends, with relatives, or with yourself in front of the mirror, in front of the camera. Film yourself telling these stories, because what I've personally found from coaching folks who are coming from a career break is that they just get rusty. As you can see, as I'm really rusty with this whole YouTube thing because we haven't done it for a year. Anyone will be very rusty at behavioral interviewing. Behavioral interviews aren't something that most people are naturally good at, especially without practice. So the more you can get yourself into the habit of recalling these professional contexts and situations that are stored somewhere in your head, but they're not front of mind. The more you can prompt yourself to do that, the more comfortable you will feel during the actual interview. And the more comfortable you are during the interview, the more creative, the more resourceful are, because your brain will spend less time thinking, OMG, am I just completely failing this? As opposed to, let's have a decent conversation, and let me just talk about me for the next 45 minutes. So yeah, I guess that's my biggest tip. And then it really depends how much time you have, because when you say this week, I mean, when exactly this week? We are now, what is it? This is Tuesday right now here in London. So if you're saying that you're going to have an interview within the next 3 days, I mean, I would say practice as much as you can. Watch through our YouTube channel. If it's your phone interview, so the first phone interview this week, I would say prepare your elevator pitch to Amazon with regards to your motivation. Why do you want to work here? And a little professional sell, which you would respond to them asking you, tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume. So that's kind of the stuff that I would be focused on. Gigi, anything you'd add?
Just, I guess, refreshing your memory, as ridiculous as it sounds. You've mentioned that you're on a career break. Yevgeny, you mentioned about being rusty in the act of telling your stories, but I don't know about you, but I literally can't remember a whole bunch of stuff that I just haven't thought about for 9 months. So if you're on a career break, I would just make sure you spend some time remembering the stuff that you want to talk about, because you might think, oh yes, in the moment I'll be able to talk about that, but you've probably let go of a whole bunch of the detail, and detail is really, really important in an Amazon interview. So if you haven't already, but you have in mind the types of scenarios in your career path that you want to talk about, spend some time really remembering the detail of those scenarios and reconnecting those synapses in your head, because you might think they're there, but they might not be. Okay, so I'm going to pick up this question from Natalie, Yevgeny, and then that's going to lead me to my question to you, which is another popular question. So pop this one up there. So Natalie, welcome Natalie, thank you for joining us. Can I use all of my examples from my last company? I was there for 5 years and my role was the most complex. It wasn't a technical company like in the past. Love to get your thoughts. Okay, so Natalie, I think there's probably some little hidden context behind that, in which maybe you're applying for a technical role, but you're telling us that you want to talk about the company that you worked for in the last 5 years, but it wasn't such a technical role, although it's the most complex. That's kind of what I've read between the lines. So if that's the nature of your question, i.e., I'm applying for a technical role, but I want to use the examples from my company from the last 5 years, but it wasn't so technical, should I do that? I think that's probably the question that we're going to answer. Would you agree with me on my interpretation of Natalie's question? Oh, it's a non-technical role, senior HR manager. Okay, cool.
I see that.
Yeah.
See that she's concerned that she's probably thinking Amazon super technical,
Technical,
loves
yeah.
a whole bunch of complexity.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And we can see here now that it's a non-tech role. It's a senior HR manager role. Okay. So with that in mind, Yevgeny, she wants to use the role from the last 5 years. It's a senior HR manager, but it's not a very technical company. Would we have any concerns with her using the company from the last 5 years? Would you like to go for take that one?
Sure. I mean, so first of all, last 5 years is about the span of the examples that we would recommend that you use anyway, regardless where you work. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Amazon attracts a lot of candidates, certainly still, even compared to 2 years ago. But still, Amazon sources talent from various different industries, including non-technical industries. So, for example, I don't know if you would call BT a technical company. I guess it's probably very technical, being a telecom operator. But in my case, I joined Amazon from a non-technical company, a classic food manufacturer in the UK. So it's absolutely fine, as long as you can find complex Yeah, not the complex examples. Don't make your stories too complicated, right? But as long as you can find stories about situations where you have successfully dealt with complexity, perhaps reduced it to something a lot more simple, very elegantly, then there's absolutely no reason that you should not be using your past experience of 5 years, which is where most of your examples should be coming from. So please don't worry about it. Amazon attracts folks from just about everywhere, from academia to startups to non-technical companies, and they're absolutely fine with that. Would you agree, Gigi?
Yes, people worry too much about Amazon being a tech company and that you're going to need to be a techie person. Amazon is a company built on technology, but every single discipline within Amazon is not a digital technical discipline. So if you're going for an HR role, no one expects you to be able to code or understand systems architecture. They expect you to understand the nature of an HR job and the now the word is I don't know where my brain has gone, and the functional skills, functional was the word I was looking for, associated with HR. So don't worry about it. You just need to talk about HR. It doesn't matter anything to do with technical platforms or anything like that. Okay, so that then leads me to, I'm going to ask you the question I was going to ask you, Evgeny, because Natalie very kindly kind of gave me a shoe into it. Why do we recommend to people that they don't go much further back than 5 years in the examples that they give at their interview?
Well, because if you think about 9 cases out of 10, um, if you go way back in time in your professional history, you would have been a way more junior than you are today in your jobs, and your examples and your situations, your roles would have had a lot smaller scope and internal impact, and very likely you would have been handling a lot simpler, less complex situations than today. And because Amazon is looking for you to raise the bar during the interview, which is to demonstrate that you are the sort of person who can handle more complexity, and you would have had more scope and more impact versus 50% of Amazonians in the same job family at the same level, then it plays to your advantage to use examples where you would have been at your most senior. Now, the other thing is, if you start talking about examples that go way back past the 5 years, and you based most of your content on those stories, if I was an interviewer, my question would have been, well, what happened there? Like, what exactly happened with your career? Why is it that you don't have anything that is recent?
Yeah,
So that and
what
that
have you been doing in the last 5 years that you
well,
weren't able to do
exactly.
something impressive?
Exactly. Again, Amazon is looking to compress its collective expertise, which means that with every new hire, they're looking to bring more and more expertise into the company. So it definitely plays to your advantage to talk about stuff that happened within within the last 5 years, with some examples, right? And I've used, with some exceptions, and I used a couple of these exceptions when I was interviewing at Amazon, because very early in my career, I have had the luck and the luxury of actually working for some very senior people in those organizations where I worked. It was an exception. Most people didn't get to do it. And if you think you've got some of those bestsellers somewhere in your early days, by all means use them. But the bulk of your content needs to be based with sort of between today and 5 years ago. Would that be fair, Gigi?
Yep, and I'll add one more exception, and that's where perhaps if you are doing a pivot back to a kind of functional role that you were in more than 5 years ago, you might want to throw in a couple of examples that refer back to the time where you were in that functional role, just to make sure that they understand and gather data of your subject matter expertise functionally. Obviously, you need that balance. You need to be able to demonstrate the behavioral stuff in more recent interviews for all the reasons that Yevgeny's just described, but throwing in a couple from way back where you demonstrated the functional expertise gives them a little bit of confidence that yes, you still have the memory of, and you did execute those skills that you're now trying to pivot back into. Okay, so we have another question from Rahul. So let's put that one up. So, do the same LPs get repeated? Sorry, I'm praising what you've written there. Do the same LPs get repeated during the loop interview after the first two phone interviews? Okay, so I will pick this one up, Evgeny, and then you can kind of add anything to it. So, if you are a sensible hiring manager, what you're going to do is you are going to take the most important leadership principles, the ones that you really, really care about the most, and front load them in the interview process. Because effectively, that creates a high bar filter that ensures that if someone isn't really strong at the leadership principles you really need them to be strong at, you filter them out as far up the process as you possibly can, and you don't waste interviewer and time and resources finding out that they're not going to achieve the bar you want them to achieve way down the line at loop. So, following that logic through, that then means that you've tested for important leadership principles, and then you are very likely to then bring those leadership principles back into loop because you want to revalidate. Generally, most people can come up with one good story for a really important leadership principle that you care about. But if a leadership principle is really, really important to you, you're going to want to have confidence that that person can come back with multiple stories that impress you. So, in my many, many, many hundreds of loops that I ran for Amazon and took part in for Amazon, almost always the early LPs came back in loop. Anything you'd add to that, Evgeny?
Not really. It was exactly the same. It was exactly the same with me.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Right. Oh, I'm going to say hello to an old friend. And then anyone, if you have any more questions, do drop them in. We're at kind of 37 minutes now. So, Bite Bitten, hello. It's good to see you again. People have been kind of part of the broad community of Day One Careers literally for years now. And Bite Bitten is definitely one of them, along with someone else called Lego My Ego. I was hoping to see them here today, but they're not. So, hello, Bite Bitten. It's really good to see you back, and we are delighted to be able to be back. And hopefully, it's onwards and upwards, and Amazon will be ramping up its recruiting. I know it's kind of Surge September. Have you ever heard of Surge September, Yevgeny? Because I had never heard of it until this
No, I've
year.
never heard about Search September. What is
Surge
it?
September. I didn't know it was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. So, Surge September is basically a known period of time in the recruiting calendar where a surge, funnily enough, hence the name, of jobs go up because companies are coming to the end of their financial year. Everyone's still got a little bit of budget left, and there is a surge in September when everyone's come back off the summer period and wants to use all their budget, and they're now back and raring to go. So I have my fingers crossed that Surge September is a real thing. I'm hoping it's a real thing.
For everyone's sake.
For everyone's sake. It's my birthday in September as well, so I'm hoping it'll be a little birthday present for me that we will see a surge in September. And yes, that's the thing. So hopefully we'll start to see more recs being opened, jobs being advertised, and all of you job seekers out there can move forward in trying to land a role in an organization which, there's a lot of stuff out there at the moment when it's the RTO stuff, and we all hear tons of stuff in the news about Amazon because it's just a big organization that's a nice one to poke holes in. But I still stand behind my experiences at Amazon and many other people's experience at Amazon that it's an incredible place to work. You will not learn and evolve at the same rate, I don't think, in almost any other organization that you could work in these days. So, whatever you're reading in terms of social media, I'm not saying that it's not true, and I'm not saying it's not valid, but I still stick to the fact that Amazon, if you can get in, is an incredible organization to work for, even if you decide to only work there for 12 months. Other people, 10, 15 years, I know people have worked there, but you're on the right path if you're looking for someone that's an organization where you can really grow and develop your skills.
100%. The only thing I would add to that is, for me, as the first company that I've ever joined was Procter and Gamble, and if you're a marketer and you've, like myself, you studied in North America, then that's the name you would have seen in lots of different marketing books. And this is what they used to tell us. Even if you spend 2 years at P&G, then essentially you can go anywhere. And then I ended up getting into Amazon, and they started telling me exactly the same stuff about being in big tech. And then they went on to Apple. So literally, these days, for a company like Amazon, even if you join for just a few years, and you'll be surprised and positively, you'll be positively surprised how many other doors you'll be able to open.
Cool. Okay, so I think we're kind of out of questions now, and we're coming up to kind of the 40-minute mark anyway. So I think we're going to kind of close it off here, folks. Thank you so much for coming. We'll come back again next week, and we'll come back the week after that, and hopefully we'll see attendance rise as Surge September moves forward. But by all means, please let anyone else you know that's interviewing, let them know that we're here. We'll be back here for you every single week, and fingers crossed together we can get you where you want to be. But for now, really appreciate you joining us today. I'll put the broadcast up on replay on the YouTube channel probably around tomorrow by the time I get it done. If you have any questions that you want asked, you can just drop a comment anywhere on the YouTube channel. I will say before you go, we do have, I almost forgot this bit. See, it's been so long since we did this, I almost forgot it. We have an amazing freebie that you can take totally for free, no strings attached. I'm going to do this the right way. Day1.careers/Amazon interview whiz. That is our website. There you can get yourself an amazing free course that will teach you everything you need to know about customer obsession and how we think about the leadership principles and the methodology that we've created to deconstruct them, which is unique to us. Nobody else uses it. You won't find it anywhere else. It's amazing based on our insight. Go take the freebie, make use of it. Customer obsession, #1 leadership principle. So if you don't do anything else, that at least will help you nail that particular leadership principle. And on that note, I think we'll say goodbye, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
Indeed. We'll be here next week. See you guys.
Ciao, everyone. Thank you. Take care. Have a good week. Bye.